it's me, OGDuffy, and I am back with a versus video, and my god, what a game have I got for us this week. Honestly, I've got so many great memories of this, and if it's a game you haven't played for quite a while, do go and play it. It's so addictive, it's so original, and it's just a great game. It really, really is. Yes, we are talking about that beer-related game. You know the OG, I love me beer and I love me video games, so hey, it's by Budweiser, it was sponsored Budweiser, and it's the only Tapper. Released in 1983 by Bally Midway, this video arcade game was originally only released in the adult bars. Because of the beer affiliation, it wasn't deemed suitable for kids, so you can only play it in like adult bars. A year later, they had the foresight and changed the name. Instead of being sponsored or promoted by Budweiser, the king of beers, it was then promoted by Root Tapper beer, which was root beer. Some softer drink, and by doing that and not affiliating it to alcohol, it could then be released in amusement arcades for families and everyone could play it. This obviously then got released onto lots of systems, and I've so enjoyed visiting the various systems we're looking at this week. I mean, we've got some real classic systems we're looking at for this one. We've got the usual suspects, which is of course your Commodore 64, your Amstrad CPC, and of course the humble ZX Spectrum. And then we are also going to be looking at the following other versions. The BBC Micro. Now those that watch the channel know I'm not a big fan of the Micro, the BBC, because I see it as an educational machine, and I did not like school. So that's why. But, my God, it's check this one out. And not just that, the other system we are also looking at, which we very rarely do on these verses, is the Atari 2600. And there, again, another great version. Now, I'll tell you something, this is going to be one tough versus to give a verdict to. I'm really going to struggle. I haven't got my verdict here yet. But, as always, guys, before we get into any of that, we are going to sup a beer, of course, because it'd be rude not to, and it is Tapper after all. But we're going to go look at the arcade original. So here we go, Tapper. Cheers. This bud's for you. So this is Tapper on the arcade. As you can see, this is the Budweiser version. But hey, let's get into it. Let's put a credit in here. And this is such a great game. If you haven't played it in a long time, I really do advise you Google it and have a go online. So basically, you pour your pint, you release your button, and it throws the pint down. If they disappear off the screen, they've been served and they're happy customers. So you can do this and then release when you want to. Obviously, the later you release the beer, the closer they get. They don't go off the screen, so to speak. But what happens right here, you have to collect the empties. If the empties fall off the end, you lose your life. Now, if they leave you a tip like he did, you get the dancing girls, which gives you a 1500 bonus. Sometimes the customers stop, like she did, to watch the show. But as you can see, it gets busier. So I've cleared the screen of all the customers, which means I've done level 1. Now I'm just going to show you through to the second stage of this. Gets a little bit busier. There's 2 customers instead of the single ones. Normally, if I was playing this, I would drag out the first level a lot longer just to get my points up. You know what I mean? See, there's a tip there, so I'm going to go and get the tip. Now for 1500 points. Very nice. Oh, so there you go. I threw too many beers down, which means I lose a life. All right. So we'll clear this screen. So have that tip, because it'd be rude not to. See, he's engrossed in that show. He's liking them dancing girls a bit too much, that customer. And there you go. Now, we get the bonus screen, and this is a bit of fun, really. As you can see, this is the Budweiser, not the root beer version. So this would be in the adult bar version. He comes along, and he shakes the cans. You have to monitor, see which can he doesn't shake, and then we have to follow this can. I'm going for it here. Did you follow that correctly? Hey, this bud's for you. 3,000 buds. So if you get the bonus, you get the point. Obviously, the game moves on. You get alien levels and stuff like that. And it just gets busier and busier and more hectic. It's such a great, great game. Now, as you already know, I've hinted at the fact this converted brilliantly to the home systems that we're going to look at. So let's go into it and let's go look at them home systems. Let's go look at the Atari VCS first. Very surprising one, this.
Now, as basic as this looks, you have to remember the Atari VCS was released in 1977. So for the age of the hardware that this was running on, it was a really well converted game. Now, as I quite often say on this channel, it's always about the gameplay. And this one in particular plays really, really well indeed. It's just smooth, it runs well, it's done a decent job on the sound, and you know you're playing Tapper. Now, the VCS, as I say, is very limited, but a great job on this. That's why I included it in this week. I know this was also released on things like the ColecoVision and stuff like that, but we're just looking at the main sort of consoles that were around during my time, really. Did well on the bonus stage as well. So all in all, a great start for the home conversions and a great job. Atari, really well done. And the first of the usual suspects is the Commodore 64 version. As you can see, graphically, it's quite really well presented, I felt. And I think with all of these, what we have to remember and keep in mind is the playability. The music was half decent. You know you're playing Tapper. Don't get me wrong, you can probably hear in the sound as well. When the screen gets busy, it gets a slight bit of slowdown. I don't know if that's completely physically evident, but you can hear it in the music and stuff. But another good version. I mean, the way these were converted just goes to show graphically it doesn't have to be superb to have the playability of a great game. And the Commodore 64 certainly didn't fail. The bonus level here, and as you can see, this version was sponsored by Mountain Dew. I know other versions, I think this might be the ZX Spectrum version was Pepsi, I believe. Anyway, we'll soon find out. This here's the Amstrad CPC version. Now this looks and sounds okay and is comparable in looks to the Commodore 64, but it's a poor game design. And the reason for it is this. Normally with the controls, you press the button, you pour your beer and you release your button and it throws it down, throws the glass down the counter. But unfortunately, this version, you have to hit the button again when the glass is full to throw it down, and it just feels so wrong. Now, you know, as I say, it looks good and the colours are nice. It's comparable to the Commodore 64, but I think the colour palette was better on the Amstrad version. But that control, I just can't forgive it really. And I think overall it plays slightly slower than the Commodore 64 version as well. So, no secret there, this one is not my favourite, okay? But I can tell you I am going to be struggling when it comes to the overall winner, because there's so many good versions of this, there really is. And the sponsor on this one, Pepsi Cola. Remember the Cola Wars of the 80s? Taste tests and all that? Oh, I do. Pepsi versus Coke. What's your go-to? Mine's Budweiser. Hehe. This here is the Sinclair ZX Spectrum version. Now I'm going to be quiet for a moment, just turn up the volume on this so you guys can genuinely hear it. Here we go. Your ears are not deceiving you, it really is that awful, the sound. It sounds like bees or wasps or some stinging type insect, and we all know about my experiences with such creatures. Now, taking this, there was another problem with it, and it was the customer sprites. When several of them bunched together, it was hard to count how many there were. So there could have been 2, 3 or even 4, and you could throw too many pints down, which would take away from the game really. But the sound and the sprite problem, take them away and you've got a really good conversion here. So that's what I'm saying. This is what's making this one so difficult this week, because it plays brilliantly. When I was a Specky owner back in the day, when I'd have had this, I would have been very happy with this. It's a great little conversion and very well done. Another appearance by Pepsi Cola. But shame about that sound. I'm sure the Spectrum could have done a little bit better on it. I don't know, what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Could the sound have been done better for the Spectrum version of this? But otherwise, very playable. Now, when I was at school, if we'd have had games like this on the BBC Micros, trust me, I think I'd have had a lot more love for this machine. It plays really well. The sound's decent. I mean, you get a slight bit of colour clash between the customer characters, but apart from that, it's actually really playable. The only sort of negative about this version I have is the choice of colours. Seems some very strange colours to choose, and the palette's a bit strange in places, but you cannot detract how good a conversion this actually is. This versus video, I've got to be honest with you, this is a really close one to call, and it's one that the OGDuffy is struggling on massively. This was also available on the ColecoVision, the Atari 8-bit computers, and some modern consoles like the PlayStation and stuff, but again they were just straight emulated on the modern consoles. I haven't included the ColecoVision or the Atari 8-bit because the systems I very rarely come across in my youth. I just remember the ColecoVision having a numerical pad. I've never played on one, I don't think. But it's a tough decision this week, but let's go to my verdict now.
Wow, honestly, this was so playable on all of the systems I played it, honestly. When I said right at the beginning, this is going to be a tough call, trust me, it is. I'm not sure what my final is yet, honestly. I think I'm going to do it on the fly, I really am. Right, okay. First off, I think I'm going to draw out the systems that it won't win it. Now, first off, the Amstrad CPC will not be in the running. The controls, they ruin the controls. Rather than just pressing like the space bar, for example, then releasing and throw the beer down, you had to press the space bar, fill your glass, and then you had to tap the space bar again to throw the beer. And that just threw the controls for me, because that's completely the opposite to what you do in the arcade version. So, unfortunately, Amstrad CPC, the controls failed you on this. Now, this is going to be controversial to some of you guys, but I've got to judge it on this way. It's the only way I'm going to get a verdict, I think. The Sinclair ZX Spectrum comes next. The Sinclair Spectrum did a really good version of this. It's so playable, it really is. It's sacrilege me doing this, but that sound, my God, you know the OGDuffy and bees, mate. I don't do the bees too well. They do attach themselves to me more than I do them. But the sound was just horrendous. Don't get me wrong. Turn the sound off. Put a bit of music on in the background. Pretend you're at a bar, man, and you'd have a great game of it. So I'm a bit disappointed to put the Specky where it is, but it's purely the sound that's done it, all right? Because it's so hard to judge. I just don't know how to come up with a winner for this. So that leaves the three systems, the 2600, the Commodore 64, and of course the BBC Micro. All three of them versions were so playable. Now, if we look at the Atari VCS, it's the oldest system out of all of them, at the oldest hardware. But this has to be one of the best arcade conversions I've seen on the VCS. Playability-wise, not so much seen, but the way it plays, it's just so smooth, and it just plays. You know you're playing Tapper with the real basics that the VCS has. Obviously, it's let down by its looks. Of course it is. It's the VCS. But you know what? It was just so bloody good. And the BBC version, I was shocked by how well it played. It's the playability on that version was just amazing. Sure, they got the colours weird, but as a game, when you look past that, it was just so playable. And then, of course, the Commodore 64 version. Graphically, it was good. It probably the better graphics, but it just, I don't know, the colours were a little bit drab, a little bit dull, which quite often can happen with C64 colour palette. But again, so amazingly playable. So I've got to choose a winner. It's down to them three, all right? I'm struggling here. I'm really struggling. Because all three on playability were just all really good. To come up with an answer, do you know what? For the first time ever, I'm not giving an answer. I'm going to throw it over to you guys, all right? I'm going to put up an opinion poll on Sunday morning giving you the three options, right? The three options. And you guys choose one. The opinion poll will be up on the YouTube channel. And it'll just be like, you know, vote A, B or C or ZX Spectrum, you know, whatever, you know. And I'll give you the three options, which of course will be the Atari 2600, the BBC Micro and the Commodore 64. Now, do go online and find these. If you just type into Google a TAPPER, VCS, play online, you'll find something. There'll be a link and you'll be able to play it. You can do the same with the Commodore 64 version and the same with the BBC Micro version. And the ZX Spectrum if you want to visit it as well. Although, do turn the volume down. Anyway, it's been great visiting this game. It is so classic. And maybe it is a cop-out on my part. I don't know. It's down to them three. But let's put it to a vote for the first time. Let's do an OG vote. I'll put it live Sunday morning, all right? I'll do it Sunday morning, and we'll let it run. And then the next verses we do, we'll go over the result. All right? Which will be a couple of weeks' time. Anyway, as always, guys, suggestions, comments, let me have your thoughts. Are you disappointed that I haven't come up with my own winner? I just can't. I've never been stuck before like this. So playable. Go play it. I think there's only one thing left to do. Big thank you to all you guys that subscribe, as always, and hit the like and all that great stuff you do. And, this verse for you. Hey. Oh, I didn't even have to tap that one. Hey, laters.